When AI really showed up, it wasn't some neat, tidy breakthrough. It was more like a B-movie alien egg crash landed right in the middle of everything. And you've got the usual cast of characters circling it, right? The hype artists promising miracles, the doomsayers screaming about monsters, and then there's the rest of us, just kind of staring, confused. So let's dive in and clear away some of that info smog.
The source material for this whole explainer kicks off with a really bold claim. The name we use, artificial intelligence, is just plain wrong. The argument is that there's nothing really artificial about it. It's built from human data, and there's nothing truly intelligent about the way it computes. It's just incredibly sophisticated pattern matching. And if you really sit with that idea, well, it changes pretty much everything.
So, to get to what's actually going on, we first have to tear down the bad stories that are clouding the whole conversation. We're going to look at the fight between the hype and the doom, and then we're going to bust 3 huge myths: the idea of a conscious machine, how these things think, and of course, the job apocalypse. Okay, so right now the whole AI discussion is just dominated by these 2 really loud, totally opposite, and frankly, equally wrong camps. On one side, you've got the hype artists talking up this utopian future with artificial general intelligence, AGI. And on the other, the doomsayers are warning us about the end of the world, job losses, extinction, you name it. But here's the thing. They're both so busy watching sci-fi movies in their heads that they're missing what's actually happening right in front of them.
And this is the most important part. While everyone's distracted by all that noise, the real revolution is happening in the background. It's quiet. Machine learning is just becoming infrastructure. And, boring is maybe the best compliment you can give a piece of technology. It means it just works. It's becoming as essential and as unexciting as the electricity powering the lights. So that brings us to the first big myth we need to tackle. This belief that we are on the verge of creating a conscious machine. A real ghost in the machine. This one single story is the fuel for both the absolute wildest hype and our deepest, darkest fears.
Now, check this out, because this is a fantastic way to look at it. The hunt for AGI today is a lot like medieval alchemy. You had absolutely brilliant people. Isaac Newton was a famous alchemist, chasing a goal that was just impossible. Newton never turned lead into gold. But in the process of trying, the alchemists basically invented modern chemistry. And that's the parallel here. AGI researchers probably won't create a conscious mind, but they are creating some unbelievably useful tools while they try.
This number. Wow. This really illustrates what's called the better furnace fallacy. See, the alchemists thought if they could just build a hotter furnace, then they could turn lead into gold. They were wrong. This is the modern-day equivalent. A request for a $7 trillion furnace, all based on a fundamental misunderstanding, the idea that just adding more computing power can somehow magically create consciousness.
So why is it a misunderstanding? Well, it comes down to the math. The kind of math current AI uses to learn is smooth. It's predictable. Think of it like a ramp. But a real neuron in your brain, it's all or nothing. It spikes. It's more like a light switch. You can't use ramp math to model a light switch. And that's before you even get to the insane chemical complexity of the brain, which we can't model at all. So you see the problem. You can't just scale up. You'd have to invent a whole new kind of mathematics.
So if these systems aren't thinking in a way we understand, what exactly are they doing? And that brings us to our next myth, and a really useful metaphor. Think of AI as a mapless traveler. It knows how to take a step, but it has absolutely no idea where it's going. This right here is why your AI never, ever gets it right on the first try. It's not a bug, it's how it's built. The AI literally cannot see past the very next word or the next pixel. It just takes its best guess. Then it stops, looks at you, and you have to tell it if that was the right step. Your feedback, your correction, that becomes the new spot it starts from. You're basically guiding a blindfolded traveler, one single step at a time. Yeah, it's a grind, but it has to be.
So a much, much better way to think about this technology is as a cognitive exoskeleton. It's not here to replace your intelligence, it's here to amplify it. You provide the plan, the goal, the judgment. The AI provides the raw horsepower. The AI is the machinery, but you are the pilot. And there's a sneaky psychological hook built into this whole back and forth process. Because you never know if the next prompt, the next tweak, is going to be the one that gives you that perfect result. It creates something called a variable reward schedule. It's the exact same mechanic that makes slot machines in those Japanese pachinko games so addictive.
That little voice in your head saying, just one more try. That's not a bug. It's a feature. Okay, let's tackle the last big one, the apocalypse. This is the story that AI is going to trigger mass unemployment and just completely destroy human creativity. But when you actually look at the data and at the history of technology, a very, very different picture starts to show up.
Now, this is probably the most surprising thing. Looking at data from the Financial Times, it turns out that jobs with high exposure to AI are actually growing faster than jobs with low exposure. I mean, think about that. It's the complete opposite of what everyone's been telling us. Instead of getting rid of jobs, AI seems to be creating more of them, and in the very fields it was supposed to wipe out.
So what's going on here? Well, history actually gives us a pretty good clue. It's called the productivity paradox. When electricity was first commercialized, it took 40 years, 4 decades, for productivity to actually go up. Why? Because you couldn't just swap out your big steam engine for an electric motor. You had to completely redesign the entire factory around this new power source. And that's the moment we're in right now. We're still figuring out how to rebuild our workflows around AI. Okay, so what about creativity? All this panic about AI and copyright. It's not really about theft. It's about control. Back in the day, you had guys in the music business like Morris Levy. He controlled who got a record deal. It was basically a protection racket. The technology always changes, but the game of controlling the platform, that always stays the same. So today's AI copyright war has 3 main players on the field. You've got the old guard, the big publishers, using copyright law to force their way into the new game. Then you've got the new distributors, your Spotifys and YouTubes, who are desperately trying not to get pushed aside. And then you have the AI players, like OpenAI, who want to be the new platform for everything. This isn't a fight about protecting art. It's a massive strategic battle between giants over who controls the distribution pipes of the future. So, after busting all those myths, what are we left with? Well, hopefully a new way of looking at AI. Seeing it not as some kind of magic or some kind of monster, but as what it is, a practical and seriously powerful new tool.
So the big takeaway here is that all the sci-fi stuff is really just a distraction. The real story, the real revolution, is machine learning becoming a utility, something as essential and eventually as invisible as the electrical grid that powers our world.
So in the end, what did we actually build? We didn't build artificial minds. We built mirrors. Mirrors made of pure mathematics that simply reflect the patterns found in our data. All of our language, our logic, and all of our biases too. They're a reflection of us, not a replacement for us.
Which leaves us with one last, really critical question to chew on. The machine has no plan, and its process is designed in a way that makes it really hard for us to stop using it. So in this new relationship, this dance between the human pilot and the cognitive exoskeleton, who's really in control?